Alright, testing. Here's another personal pod. Yeah. So, yeah, today I just wanted to, well, tonight, I guess. Excuse the noise. Just a second. Yeah, I wanted to talk about something that kind of came up that I kind of realized, that shed some light on some things for me. So I was really glad that I was open-minded to hearing this. So let me tell you what I mean. Relationships, right? But early on, when you're into somebody and you're trying to tell, like, are they into me? Is this gonna work between the two of us? Are we compatible? Are they feeling me the same way I'm feeling them? I mean, usually it's like when you're in a setting where it's like you're the one who's into somebody, it can be easy to be like blind, and keep on trying. But there's certain things, I was listening to a video by Alexis and Lillian on YouTube, and it's kind of an older video, but they were talking about how you can tell if you're female and you're into females and you're kind of like liking a female and you want to know if she's like into you. They were kind of giving like tips to kind of look out for, which was something I was like, yeah, like that's something that I kind of noticed too. So yeah, let's go down the line of examples here. I'll use most of the ones that they gave, but I would say, I've been in those situations, and I can give some examples. I don't mind putting it out there. But I'd say most times nobody really wants to put their feelings and ego on the line. When you're interested in someone, you want to hear that they like you back, right? Because it feels weird when you're kind of like into somebody and you're like, yo, I'm feeling this person. And then like, you don't want to just do absolutely nothing about it forever, especially if they're never going to make a move or aren't making a move, right? So it can be really hard to be like, yeah, I'm into this person. And then they're kind of like not really clear, and you can't really tell because, you're kind of like friendly, but you get along and, hang out and do stuff together. So it's not like always super clear, right? But I would say here are some ways you can tell. According to what Alexis and Lillian said, and even from some other things that they may have mentioned or just other kind of stuff, right? So I'm kind of just going to take this on a bit of a few tangents here, quite a few tangents. I would say that, yeah, it's true. Like, I've noticed that when you're into somebody, one thing that is easy to kind of overlook is usually the communication piece. So that's one thing I really was able to resonate with, was the piece that they talked about when it comes to communication, right? Because nowadays people communicate, at least in the modern Western world, people communicate, pretty quickly, pretty efficiently, right? And you can think about on your own end when you're communicating with somebody, either, say it's like after work or after school or whatever you do most of the day, you come home, you can kind of tell, like, if you're the kind of person who's usually like on your phone to text or like on social media to like browse or like message people and stuff, or dating apps, or Zoom, or trying to like meet up and like text somebody to hang out or do something, you can kind of tell the people that you want to see, that you like being around, because those are the people that you kind of light up or feel a bit nice when you get a message from them, or like every so often you're like, oh, I just want to message this person, you know what I mean? But when you're not into somebody, it's like when they message you, you're like, eh. Or when you're annoyed by somebody and they message you and you look at their message and you're like, like that's too long, I don't want to read it. Or like, this person's being obnoxious, I don't really want to, like, listen to this. Or, like, maybe you just want to be in a good mood and, like, focus on your positive thoughts, and then somebody has a bunch of, like, negativity they're bringing in. You can think about from your own perspective what would make you less likely to talk to somebody versus more likely, right? And usually it's those people that are saying things that are kind of what you resonate with at that moment, or things that you kind of want to hear or need to be around, or you're into them and it doesn't matter what they're saying, you just want to hear from them all the freaking time. Well, it does matter what they're saying, but I mean, like, it doesn't matter if they're just, like, sending you, like, emojis and, like, gifs and freaking memes, and you're just like, hell yeah, like, send me memes, man, like, just send me something. And I'm not even talking about desperation, I'm just talking about, like, damn, like, sometimes you're really just into somebody. So yeah, those are the kind of things. Because when you're into somebody on your end, right, you're thinking about this person. You want to connect with them. You consider them. You're thinking, like, hey, like, I wonder what they're up to. Like, I haven't heard from them in a few days. I wonder when the next time is we're going to see each other or, like, talk or, whatever. Like, the next time we're going to do something, right? If you don't like somebody, you don't really care, sometimes you just want to get together and, like, be together with someone. And, yeah, that's kind of how you'll feel, right? But imagine that's not the case, right? So imagine you're into somebody, and with all that stuff in mind, right? You're like, oh yeah, like, you're wondering, like, hey, is this person, like, interested? But it's like, they don't message you for, like, a month and a half, or, like, they never want to hang out or never try to make plans. And I'm not talking about people who have, like, anxiety around, like, new people, or anxiety around, like, intimacy or getting to know people. I mean, or people who just aren't good at texting or aren't good at calling back, or just don't go out, and just they're kind of always kind of, like, in hermit mode and, like, never really leave their house anyways. Those are the kind of people, if you know someone who kind of has those kind of general issues, it can be kind of hard to really tell if they're really going to be down to, like, start, like, even if they are into you. What I'm trying to say is that it's kind of hard to tell if they're into you, because it's, like, just their natural patterns and their own personal style of doing things, just naturally, if they're just kind of like that, it can be hard to tell. So that would be something that I would say, like, there are exceptions. It's not like 100% rule of, like, if they don't text you in however many hours to the minute, to the second of this amount of days, then they're definitely not interested. Like, who knows? And sometimes you never really know unless you ask. And sometimes even when you ask, people aren't forthcoming with the information, because maybe they're embarrassed, or maybe their ego's kind of in the way, or maybe they're just confused about something, or just they haven't figured it out, or maybe they're not ready or something, so they'll just be like, no, I'm not interested. Or maybe they think you're not interested, and then they're like, no, I'm not interested. Or they think you're teasing them or something. Yeah, so that would be something I'd say, I agree with them. I mean, there's nothing that they said that I didn't agree with, and even if I didn't, who cares? Like, who am I, right? But I just thought it was really interesting, because it was like, yeah, man, like, sometimes you're just into somebody and you just, like, want them, and you want to, like, connect, right? On some level, you want to be, like, involved. And I'm not talking about, like, obsessive, like, desperation of, like, thirstiness and just being like, dude, I want to be, like, up in your grill, like, all day and all night. Like, I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about, like, when you meet somebody and you realize, dude, I'm into this person. In general, you're into them and you want to get to know them better, and you want to get to know them more, and you want to spend more time together with them. So in general, that's usually how it looks. If there's a person that doesn't seem like they're trying to spend more time together, or trying to get to know you, or interested in you, or, like, anything, like, even remotely along those lines, it's probably safe to say that maybe they don't think about you or feel about you the same way that you do for them. But then again, it's hard, because you got to take into consideration all these other social styles and, insecurities that people will have, myself included. I'm not saying like, oh, everybody has insecurities but me. I'm just saying in general, you can kind of tell how somebody is, right? Because it's like, sometimes you're into, maybe sometimes on your end, you might be into a person. And so you might be interested, you might want to interact, you might want to, be together with them. And they might not feel the same, or they might feel the same. I don't know. But yeah, a lot of times people just really don't want to put it out there. They don't want to put themselves out there when they're into somebody, because it's weird, right? Like, it's weird when you're like, dude, I don't even know if this person's into me, and you're into them, and then you're like, hey, can we like talk and have this like serious conversation about how I like you and all this stuff? It's like, that's weird, especially if you're like, dude, I kind of knew they weren't into me. Like, why the fuck did I do that? It's like weird. Like, and everybody, not everybody's awkward about it afterwards, and people can kind of be cool. But sometimes people are like, they'll go tell all their friends, and especially if you're not like straight, these kind of settings for people can get super strange, because it's like, okay, like, they might out you, or like, you might not be out, or they might not be like they might be straight and not interested in dating females, and you're a female. It's like, and that can create a lot of risk for some people too, and depending on their environment. So, and that's another thing to keep in mind too, is if you're not a straight individual, I'm not saying that straight people don't have their dating problems too, but if you're not a straight individual, there might be these other risky areas that really might not apply to straight people, so, if you're just out there trying to date somebody, but it's like, if it's kind of like this down low situation, or like, you don't want to get like exposed in some setting, like, it's kind of hard to start trying to like date somebody that you're really into, depending who they might be connected with. It might be a community of people that maybe you're not out to all these people, maybe 2 or 3 trusted friends or something, for example. And then, those friends can keep your secrets and won't tell anybody, hopefully. And then you're kind of like feeling out this new person that you met, and you're interested in them. And then it's like, are they even interested? Are they even like potentially likely to like be interested? And even if they are, on the queer spectrum of some sort, or even curious about it, but I would say maybe the curious people are a hard one to, there's a hard bunch. I try not to be like prejudiced against that kind of thinking. There's nothing wrong with people who are curious or confused or questioning or anything like that. And they're not all the same thing. I know those aren't even the same terms, but I'm just saying, if somebody is not like 100% like, this is how I am, or even people who just don't choose labels or whatever it may be, like, that can create some insecurities for people too. And I'm not saying it needs to create insecurities, and I'm not saying those kind of relationships can't work or don't work, but it creates other issues as far as just like stressful related issues, and things to consider, like, if this person kind of views their life, and you hear them talking about, maybe they want like a white picket fence and a husband, and it's a female who wants a male husband, cis male husband with a picket fence and a dog and a cat or something, and a kid, and it's like, okay, that's how they kind of see their life. They don't see themselves, this female doesn't see herself with another female in her future. So her mind's not even maybe going there. And I'm not saying people I'm not saying people change or whatever, but it's like, sometimes people realize things about themselves along the way. So it's like, if they're not even open to, like, exploring that, or if they're, like, standoffish about it, or uncomfortable about it, that's another thing. That just brought up something in my mind that I just kind of want to rant about, and it's not necessarily on the same topic, and I might need to do a whole different recording about this, but, oh man, I don't know if this is just, people need to help me out with this. Is this just a straight woman thing? That, if you're maybe not straight, or maybe, on the tomboyish looking side, or androgynous looking side, or people assume you're not straight, or, you're just not, the stereotypical female look, or if you're not straight and people know it or assume it, or if you're in a place or a space talking to other females and it's a space that's not, like, say if it's like a gay bar or something like that, like, I want to know if other people get this too, but I get this all the time where it's like, people feel the need to mention that they're not gay, and I'm like, dude, I don't know if you guys even, like, know me, or people who do know me, I'm not a flirty person, and even if I've had a couple drinks in me, or even if I've smoked a blunt or eaten an edible or whatever the heck, I'm not flirty. So it's kind of like, weird to me how people can be, like, flirty, or I don't know how people can feel the need just because, if I'm talking to them, and I feel like it's because, like, the way I present and the space that I'm in. I mean, I've never even come up to certain people or been like, hey, like, if I'm interested in this type of person or this gender of person or whatever, I've never really, like, said that to the people that I'm, like, even thinking about, that this happened to me with. And it's been multiple people where I'm just like, dude, like, why do they feel the need to tell me that they're straight? Like, I was talking to this one chick that I saw before, and it was my friend's birthday, but I saw her at my friend's house before, maybe like a month and a half before, maybe 2 months, I don't know, a long time ago. Like, and so I have a friend whose birthday was in February, right? And I saw this other person, I think it was like a Christmas party, so it must have been near December. So I saw them near December at my friend's house. That was the first time we met, and it's like, we're the same race, and in the city where I live, it's like, there aren't really a lot of us of this race, and so, that was kind of something where it's like, you see somebody, and you just want to just be like, hey, like, I'm not gonna, like, completely ignore you, and she came in way later. It was like a gathering, like a game night, and she came in way later, so the games had already started, and when I had come in, it was kind of in the middle, so it's like, there was already a game that was wrapping up, so, and I felt awkward just kind of standing around, but my friend wasn't too involved in that game, and so it was cool that I got to kind of catch up with my friend, and then her friends were, like, playing another game, right? And so I was like, dude, this feels awkward to kind of be, like, in here, and I can't, like, meet or talk to these other people, because, like, they're in the middle of a freaking board game or something, and I'm like, at least my friend was there, and we talked and stuff, and waited for the game to end, and then the game ends, and then, we started, like, a game with the ones of us who had come in new, and, a whole different game, and, I think we played maybe 2 games, maybe 3 by that point, when this other, person walks in. So she walks in, and, she just comes in, grabs a bite to eat, like, kind of watch it, like, I was, like, trying to, like, chat, but I couldn't, because I'm in the middle of the game, so I was just telling her, like, oh, there's snacks there, and there's, like, pizza there, grab a drink there, it's kind of that kind of thing, and she introduced herself, and she was talking to one of my friends, also the same race as me, but, people always assume me and this friend are dating, just, I think, because we're both the same race. I don't know why they think we're dating, but they do, and we're not, but, whatever. He's a cool dude. I don't know. I don't have nothing against him, but it was just funny, right? So this is I'm setting the background here. She came in, didn't stay too long. Like, she didn't leave in like 5 minutes, but she never got into a game, never really played a game, and she had to bolt, she had to leave, so we didn't really get to talk too much. And then, so this is a few months later, right, like near February or something, I see her again at my friend's birthday, and we're out at like at a gay bar, and we're chilling, and we're having fun, and like somebody ordered like bottle service, and we're having drinks, so I'm a little tipsy, and she had been drinking too, and she's sitting there, and I'm just like standing, and it's like the crew of us, like never, I don't think everyone was on the dance floor, like the crew, or people were, and then it was me and her and maybe like 4 or 5 other people, and some of them I had recognized from that December party, and so I'm like, trying to like talk to her, and she started talking to me first, I think. She was like, hi, or like, I don't remember what she said, but I think she was like, we were like reintroducing ourselves, because I was like, I remember you from that other party, and like, how are you doing, like, and it's kind of like, we kind of work for the same place too, but just like different locations in the city. And so I was kind of like, wait, do you work for this place, or like, I can't remember what she was saying, so I was just trying to be like, how's work, like, how are things, just trying to mingle. I wasn't even like hitting on her, I wasn't even interested, but I was drinking. And then by like somewhere in that conversation, I went from kind of like slightly buzzed and tipsy to drunk, and then she was too. And we were just talking, and she suddenly is just like, well, she didn't say she was straight, but she mentioned she had a, she was interested, she's like, oh, I'm interested in this guy. Like, I don't know, like, she was just talking about, like, how she was gonna move, and I think she had switched jobs, too, by that point, and then how she wanted to move, and I was trying to tell her, like, different areas where I'd lived, and kind of, like, the cost and benefit compared to where she's gonna be working with the traffic, and the ease of things, or the difficulties of different things that I noticed in the city, or different parts of the city or whatever. I'm just trying to help her out, right, about where she's gonna move, and she starts just suddenly randomly talking to me about this dude that she's interested in, and I'm like, okay. And so that kind of turned me off, and I didn't want to talk to her at that point. I was like, whatever. And another time, it was maybe on me, I was kind of like not sure if one of my friends was like into me, so I kind of, this is another situation, I kind of texted my friend, another friend, about this one chick, because I was like not sure of the vibes, like, and I didn't really say much. I'm glad I didn't say much, but their names both start with the same letter, and then I was like drunkenly texting my other friend about her and being like, dude, I can't really tell if she's into me, like, what's up, and then I accidentally texted it to her. But, she acted weird about it, dude. Like, she didn't act like it was nothing. Like, she didn't just, like, keep it to herself. Like, we're out with another friend, and she went and, like, told him about it, or, like, whatever, and made, like, a whole scene about it. And I'm like, fuck you, kind of thing, Like, can you just have, like, been chill about it, She kind of made it, like, I'll be honest, she made me feel bad. I was like, fuck, Like, and I wasn't even, like, hitting on her, and I'm not, like, interested in her. I was just, like, not sure, and I was trying to, like, run it by a friend, because I was like, dude, she's really sending mixed signals. Like, I mean, like, I'm walking down the street, she's trying to hold my hand and give me a hug, and, like, asking me about, like, my sex life and stuff like that, and that kind of stuff over, and just kind of, like, over the course of, like, a couple consecutive weekends, and I'm just like, and I didn't even know her too good at that point either, so I was just like, what is up, and she was, like, always asking me a lot about sexuality and all these kind of questions, and I'm like, okay, like, maybe she's, like, interested, like, I don't know why else she would be asking me all this stuff, like, other than the fact that she's pretty nosy, but, I mean, I was just like, maybe she's interested. I don't really know. I don't know where this is coming from, right? But yeah, she went, and in front of me, like, when we're eating, like, burritos at the end of the night after drinks and stuff, and trying to sober up before we go home, and, Mexican food does the trick, right? And, we're sitting there eating our Mexican food, and she's just like, I kind of accidentally was trying to text my friend, accidentally texted her when I was going into the bathroom. And so I come out and I'm like, fuck, like, I'm like, sorry, you know, and I was kind of like embarrassed about it, but like, you know, she didn't have to like do what she did. I don't know, that was fucked up, I'm sorry, but to me it was fucked up. I wouldn't have done that to her. I wouldn't have done that to anybody. So that was another one. I mean, I've had a couple other situations where, you know, females have just been like, I'm straight, and I'm like, okay. Like, in like a rude way, and I'm just like, good for you. Like, there was someone I met before that was like a friend of a friend of a friend, and like we were having drinks. They come up after a baseball game, come join us for drinks, and you know, they'd gone to like gay night at like the baseball stadium or whatever, and like she's decked out in like rainbows the first time I meet her, and then the next time I see her is at a gay bar, and I start talking to her. Like, I don't know what I was saying. I was just like, when I recognize somebody, I try to acknowledge that I met them before, and I just was talking, and I was already there with my friends, and she shows up with a couple other people, and I was just like, how's it going, how you doing, like that kind of thing, like, what have you been up to? And she's like, I'm straight. And I'm like, okay, well, good for you, you know? But it's stuff like that where I'm just like, dude, I wasn't like hitting on you, I'm just trying to make like basic conversation. But I mean, I'll wrap that part up, but I just gotta say, when it comes to people who are maybe not the straightest of people, it can be really very just stressful, you know, when you're into somebody, when you're actually into somebody. I mean, could you imagine if you're into one of those kind of people, and you're a girl and you're into girls, and you were actually into one of those kind of girls that I was actually just talking about, and then they come up to you like, I'm not straight, or like they fucking like tell their friend that you were like asking if they're into you or whatever, and that kind of thing. Excuse me. Wow, I'm coughing. Sorry about that. But that kind of thing, right? I'm just like, dude, like, how can you not be concerned about this, you know? It's just something that I just wasn't able to really wrap my head around. Sorry, I couldn't decide between hands or head. But I couldn't really wrap my head around it. And then it's like, there's more to it. I mean, I can just go on and on forever. But I mean, like, another thing that can be just so frustrating and stressful is like, definitely the communication style stuff, right? Because when you're trying to communicate with someone, you want to talk to them. You're trying to interact with this person. You're trying to get to know them. You want them to get to know you, and you're pretty excited because you're like, dude, I'm like into them or whatever. But like, sometimes their style is just not what you want, right? Like, I'm a pretty communicative person, and if I'm into somebody, I like to hear from them. And I have people in my life that, you know, I've heard from a lot. And I'd say, you know, to me, that's something that, you know, the way I realized that it was something that I liked is because, you know, even when there were people that I met that were like friends, but they would like, you know, take more time to like kind of like want to hang out and do stuff together and spend time together, even if it's like, you know, hey, like, I'm not busy, you want to text for a while kind of thing, you know, or whatever. Like, I mean, nobody says that, but, you know, that kind of thing where it's like, you can tell that they're like actually reading your messages and thinking things through, thinking about you on occasion, and like want to connect, you know. And it's like, I feel like there's something about me that, like, you know, I like to connect to people, and I like them to want to connect with me. And if I'm into them, even if it's just as a friend, if I'm interested in being around them or talking to them, to me it's important to be like connected. Like, I want to know what's up in your life. I don't want to be like, oh shoot, like, what have you been up to? Like, oh, I didn't know you're engaged. Oh, I didn't know you got a new dog. Oh, I didn't know you moved. It's like, I thought we were close, and like, I don't even know anything about you, and I haven't talked to you in like 2 months, and your whole life is different. So that kind of thing, for me, it's like, I understand people go through times, people go through things, they don't want to talk, they don't want to interact, they just want to, isolate and be by themselves. And sometimes, a lot of times people need that. I understand. And I try to be patient with it. But, I try to be understanding about that kind of thing. But I do think I do need someone who likes to communicate regularly. And for me, it's really hard when it's like, I'm not like a combative person, so I don't prefer like arguing. And like, if I'm in some kind of mood, I do need some space. So I do appreciate some space on some things. Like, say, for example, when I come home from work or something and I'm just, like, stressed and, like, I just drove in traffic or just stood in line to get, like, some vegan takeout and it took forever and they got my order wrong maybe, or, like, you just had a lot of stress and you're finally getting home to relax. The last thing I want to do sometimes is talk about some, like, super serious topic. I need some time to unwind, decompress, like, that's just naturally how I am. And so I can't imagine if I was coming home to somebody who was just, like, needing me to, like, be there for them right when I got home. Like, that would not work for me ever. But, I wouldn't say that, like, I would want to completely, like, cut them off, for, like, long periods of time, like, for weeks or days at a time, where it's like, I don't want to talk to them. Like, I get it, like, if you're busy and you got, like, a deadline coming up at work or whatever, and you're just, like, in your own stuff, but it's, or, like, a death in the family or something, you're kind of just trying to, like, process it all, and sometimes, you're really just trying to deal with something, but that should be the exception. It shouldn't be, like, this is normally how I interact with you, and for me, that's not gonna work. And so I'd say just learning that about myself helped me realize that's kind of something that I notice even when somebody's being a friend. And if I might, like, have a little crush on somebody that I met, like, maybe we went out on, like, a date or two, and then it's like, maybe we're not really dating, but that gets us hanging out as friends. It can be hard for me to decipher if they're really, like, interested in me, if they keep on wanting to, like, interact all the time, because for me, that's kind of something I like. I like hanging out and seeing the people that I want to see and getting to know them and connecting to them. So when they want to do those things, I'm like, oh, maybe they're into me too, But sometimes that's just how people are friends. And so it's kind of hard for me, though. That makes it kind of hard for me to decipher, and those are areas where I'm like, okay, like, I get real confused real quick when it's like, I'm not, like, somebody's kind of speaking my love language here, and I can't really decipher if they're trying to show me how they feel or not, or whatever, I don't know. But, I don't know, I'm still thinking about, like, all the females that have told me that, just felt the need to tell me that they have a boyfriend, or felt the need to tell me that they're straight or whatever. And it's like, what the fuck, Like, I'm not hitting on them. I don't think I'm hitting on them. Like, maybe I am and I just don't know it, but I feel like I'm really not. Like, I feel like I don't, like, have it in me to really be, like, hitting on people. Like, it's, like, I'm not a flirtatious person. Like, the way I talk on these things is kind of just the way I talk to people. I don't feel like it's flirty. I'm not a very, like, I just kind of say what I mean. I'm not really good at, like, expressing myself a lot of the time, but I try to say what I mean. I'm not trying to, like, bat my eyelashes and, like, lean up on you and, like, whisper in your ear or whatever. Like, dude, I'm a pretty reserved person, so I can't imagine how much it would take for me to actually do something like that, without me knowing that, like, hey, this person is totally interested and, I'm into them too, like, that would be way different. But, like, dude, I'm really shy. I'm not gonna just be like, yo, what up, but yeah, that's something that I would say is a topic, that, like, this whole topic of, like, trying to find out, is somebody going to be interested? Is somebody going to be, you know, uh, receptive, open-minded even? Because, I mean, it's not only, just like, damn, like, too bad they don't like me back. That's not what this is about. It's not only like, oh, like, they don't like me. If it was as easy as that, if it was as easy as, like, you ask somebody to come play, like, one-on-one basketball with you, and they're like, oh, I don't want to, and then I don't like basketball, and you're like, oh, okay. If it was, like that easy, it would be like, okay, that's not gonna, like, cause any emotional damage in my life, if it was, like, that kind of an interaction, right? But it's more than that, because if you're actually into the person, you're kind of invested in them, you're, like, really into them, and you have, like, emotions wrapped up, and you want them to like you. So you're already going to be disappointed at the least if they don't like you. You might even be pretty sad or, like, depressed or upset about it. And just depending how they even react to you opening up to them about that, like I was saying, some people can be pretty fucking shitty and want to, like, hurt your feelings, or their egos get all boosted up, or they get embarrassed and, like, make you feel some kind of way. I never know how to really explain that, but it's like, there might be a reaction to it that might be more than just they're not interested. It might be like a negative, like, worst case scenario, like when you're catastrophizing kind of thing, where it's like, maybe you get outed, or maybe you get, like, discriminated against, or, like, they shun you, or, like, avoid you, or, like, now, you thought you were connecting with this person and, creating some sort of, like, intimate conversations and open space to talk about things, and now this person just writes you out of their life, and it's like, dude, what the fuck, it's like you kind of were, like, connecting to them, so you thought, and then they just drop off the face of the planet. I mean, that shit hurts when people ghost you when you're actually into them. I think nobody wants that either. There are a lot of things that we don't want, right? We don't want ghosting. We don't want, a negative situation. So it is more than just somebody just being like, no, I'm not interested, sorry. And then just, like, things are still cordial and nice and, like, friendly and fun after that. Like, sometimes they do go south, and so I have to acknowledge that that is a thing that does happen, that it's like, dude, if you do open up yourself to kind of, be vulnerable and tell somebody how you actually feel, they might actually kind of crush you, so that kind of fucking sucks. And, isn't that why they say they call it a crush, right? I've heard that, because it's like, they can break you. But I mean, I'm not laughing because it's, like, funny, but, but it's kind of true. They can crush you, We've all been kind of crushed, I think. A lot of us have been. But, I mean, I would say, too, take into account the other side, too, right? This isn't just about me, what is happening with me. Like, I would say any kind of topics where we're talking about them and it involves, like, social interactions, other people, or care for yourself, or, connecting with a higher power, any kind of connecting kind of force that's involved, I would say it's always good to consider, too, that there's another person over there. There's another person over there that, maybe if the script is flipped, take that into consideration too, because there might be people out there that might be into you, that are like, dude, I think that person's kind of nice, or kind of cute, or, like, whatever, but they just don't want to step to you about it, or, like, they're not really, like, too confident about it, or whatever, and, like, they're shy, or, like, don't want to put themselves in a vulnerable position. And if they do put themselves in that position, try to be, like, open, and, like, don't let your ego get the best of the situation, or the worst of it, or whatever you want to call it. Don't treat people like shit, like, I think most of us have been treated like shit at least once, and we would all probably say that we don't like it. So don't treat other people that way either, is what I would say. Like, we can learn from all of this conversation about, how there can be, pleasure involved with the whole thing, and they can be joyful and pleasant and nice and fun and, exciting. And if they do like you, awesome, that's going to be fun and great. Hopefully, if things don't get too, there still has to be a whole lot of communication is the thing. But I would say really, if somebody, might be into you, you want to be like respectful and like give them space to talk, and like if they do try to like bring it up to you, give them something to work with, don't, I would say that's the best style to do things, is kind of give them something to work with. I mean, people's minds run wild, and their minds make up stuff that hasn't even happened yet, or go back to a situation that was maybe like somewhat on the negative side, where like, damn, I'm disappointed it didn't go the way I wanted, So people have those kind of situations, and then you're like replaying it over and over in your mind. You don't want to be like, oh, they just told me that they don't like me, and that was the end of the conversation. They never talked to me again. You don't want to be that person to somebody. I mean, I understand if someone needs to be blocked, or is toxic and needs to be out of your life, or they're stalkerish or creepy or weird, and you're just not comfortable. I get that. I'm not saying you have to talk to people if you're uncomfortable with it. But what I'm saying is, if you are comfortable still being around this person, they're not making you feel uncomfortable, they're not trying to be pushy, they're not being inappropriate or pushing your boundaries or anything, and you want to stay friends, I mean, I would say, just try to open up that conversation and just be like, hey, I know that you're not interested, but, I still want to be friends, and maybe lay out, this is what friendship looks like, you don't have to say it like a textbook, but, just being like, hey, like, yeah, I'd like to still stay friends with you, and like, I value our friendship, and I like the communication and, connection that we've been having, and it's been nice and fun, but don't string them along, don't hang out with them in their bathtub or jacuzzi without your clothes on or whatever, don't like sleep over in their bed and cuddle up with them at night, or, do all sorts of things that's like, this isn't, what friends do. We're kind of crossing the line here. And, I'm not saying that, like, you have to limit your types of interactions with people. Some people really are physically and emotionally very intimate with people, even though they're buddies. But I would say, don't lead people on, don't lead people on. But if they are into you, or somebody's into you, don't get your ego involved in it either. Because, you don't want to be a part of hurting somebody who's just trying to be nice and express their feelings, Because that's why we all have these fucking complexes, is because somebody along the line fucked it up for us, and now we can't get over it, and so, we deal with things in this way too. So that's what I would say. I'd say it's an important thing to think about. Very important thing to think about. Not just how do you want to interact emotionally with people, but how are they interacting with you, right? I'd say these are the things that we talk about, is who's interacting with whom. So, and who likes whom, and any time, if there's any time when someone's coming to you in a vulnerable position, you never want to take advantage of that. You never want to like laugh in their face or be like fucked up about shit. Like, if you're feeling insecure, I'd say the best thing to do is to own it. Almost like, I'm not saying it's always a good idea. Like, say, for example, if you're in like a job interview or giving like a speech to a large group of people in a professional setting or something, and you say, oh, I'm nervous, like, but sometimes, owning up to it, is a good thing, because people can kind of relate to you more, and then it's like, okay, I put it out there that I'm nervous, so now any kind of thing that kind of comes up that might be a little awkward or weird, or if I stutter some or something, at least it's like people kind of know what's up. It's not just like my brain just never works. It's just, dude, like this situation is stressful for me and it's making me react in a weird way. And I think sometimes that's the best kind of approach to be like a little forthcoming about. Like, you don't have to be like straight up like, I'm nervous or like I'm feeling insecure when you're talking to me about your crush on me or whatever. Like, you don't have to be like too odd about it. And I'm even saying like, you know, I'm just trying to like give an example of like the interview or like a public speech or something where it's like, you're just trying to put it out there that like, this is how I'm feeling right now, you know? And the reason why people kind of do that, I think, is because, you know, it makes them feel a little bit more understood and at ease when, you know, they do something that they might feel weird about later on when they're looking back at the situation and being like, damn, like, why'd I do that? Or why'd I say it that way? Or why was I wiping sweat off my forehead, you know? And it's like, or, you know, because what happens usually is we try to, like, compensate for, like, those weird insecure moments where we're like feeling like that. And then you know, so say for example, if somebody's telling you that they're into you, you know, a natural response might be to tease them about it or to get sarcastic about it or to, you know, I don't know. Oh my gosh. I know people do this, but it's almost sickening to say, but like how people kind of like lead people on, or like they're just like, oh, I'm into you too, and like, oh, just kidding, like just to get the other person to kind of open up or something. Like, that's fucked up shit. But I mean, yeah, people's egos get involved in it too, because like when someone makes you feel kind of not insecure necessarily, but a little like uncomfortable or nervous, you know, the ego tries to come up and be like, dude, like, you need to kind of like puff yourself up a bit and protect yourself here and like be sarcastic, take a jab at them now, you know, like, and it's like, if you've been on the other end of that stick where you're the person that's trying to be like, yo, I'm kind of into you and it's hard for me to tell you this, and then the other person's over on the other side just like making light of it or making you feel kind of shitty, it's like, okay, like, fuck them, you know? Like, and do you really want to be that person to somebody, you know, that fuck them kind of person, you know? Like, you want this person who's been your friend all this time to be able, if you still want them in your life and you want them to be able to, like, come to you and still have, like, open conversations, and you don't want to hurt their feelings, because if you actually care about them and they're your friend, you don't want to hurt their feelings, you know? And that's kind of where I'm going with this, is that, you know, you just want to be kind and considerate to people, because some people, you know, you never know where somebody's coming from with stuff or how difficult it might really be for them. So it's good to kind of be considerate of how someone else is going to feel if they're into you and the roles are reversed and you're kind of like, oh, they came up and like were telling me all these things about their crush on me or whatever. You know, it's not something to go share with friends or anybody. You know, you can keep it like a private conversation between you and the other person. I mean, I'm big on like confidentiality, privacy, just like keeping things like sharing like personal stuff, you know, between you and another person. I'm like, I mean, people say that to me a lot. Like, you're so mysterious, you're such a private person. I'm like, hell yeah, I am a private person. You know, like, I don't like my business and everybody else is like leaked all over the streets, you know? Like, I like to keep things to myself. If you're not my friend, or if you don't listen to these podcasts, you're probably not gonna know too much about me. You know, just because that's how I am. I'm just like, dude, I'm not gonna invest all this and energy into people that aren't really truly trying to be a part of my life, and then I'm gonna be running around worrying like, okay, why are these people treating me like this or that, and it's not something that I value or like, but it's like they also don't care about me either, so they're not gonna be likely to invest, you know, their feelings or like, you know, create a sense of well-being or anything like that, you know, if they really don't care about me, you know. So I'm like, let me just avoid that and only really try to connect to the people that I'm interested in connecting with. But I mean, I am pretty open-minded. I like people in general, but, you know, I don't really share a whole lot of stuff with them. Like, if somebody came up to me and they were like trying to be open about a crush that they had on me, and they were like part of my friend group or something, I wouldn't go and like tell all my friends, you know, I'd keep it to myself, you know, and especially if it wasn't like, yeah, especially if they told me like, hey, can you maybe like not talk to anybody else about this, because maybe they feel like a little odd that like I'm not like into them or something if I'm not, and that was the conversation, and maybe they don't want everybody knowing that, you know, they just tried to open that door, you know. I mean, I try to consider other people's egos, you know, and it's like, you know, I don't want to be like the cause of somebody feeling like ashamed or embarrassed about something that's just, all of us have crushes on people, so fuck it, you know, like, I don't want to be like stomping on people and stuff. That's not really me. I'm not into that. Um, there's a, let me see. I would say I like, um, let me see. Yeah, mostly when we're thinking about kind of, you know, the role reversal or the situation reversal, it's good to kind of look at it that way too. And it's good to also, you know, remember your own experiences. If we remember how we've been treated, you know, a lot of times it's just, we just get insecure about stuff. That's just how we are. We're humans. We get insecure, social situations and things that, you know, you're vulnerable in a vulnerable situation about and stuff like that. They can make us feel really insecure. We all have those parts of us, and it's fine to feel that way. And acting on the insecurity or acknowledging the insecurity, I think there's nothing really wrong with that. But when it starts hurting people, you know, I think that is somewhere that, like, a lot of times people might not think about it, but it's like, yeah, your insecurity, if your level of insecurity is now, like, damaging another person, and I don't mean damaging, like, it, like, even, like, super trauma, you know, like, you're developing PTSD from it, you know, I mean, like, even, like, little stuff, you know, like, little sarcasms and little jabs, I really don't believe in that kind of thing. I mean, I'm not saying I never do it, I really am trying not to do it, and I really just think it's not part of a safe environment to have, like, that level of, like, sarcasm or criticisms or, you know, making people feel insecure about something. I mean, if you've ever had somebody in your life that, like, makes you feel insecure on purpose about things, you know, pointing out things that are, like, your imperfections, or if you do something weird and kind of, like, making you feel weird about it, you know, pay attention to that, you know, pay attention to those things. You know, pay attention to what your friends and family tell you. I'm not saying the people that are, like, you know, don't have your best interest at heart, or maybe if they're jealous, or, you know, I don't know, like, not everybody, like, has good intentions is what I'm trying to say, but, you know, sometimes you'll hear the same thing. I've heard, you know, some people have asked me about a certain friend that I have, you know, a couple times, like, oh, I should have invited so-and-so, and they said it, like, a couple times, and I was like, I haven't really talked to him, I haven't really seen him in a while. Or before that, they were like, oh, like, why are you friends with that person? Or, like, somebody was even saying, like, oh, like, I don't like drinking with that person, or, like, you know, like stuff like that, where it's like, where certain people kind of don't want to be around, this friend of mine, and I'm just like, I think they're okay, but, I mean, they have hurt my feelings a few times, but it's like, it is the same person I'm saying, you know, when I accidentally sent the text to them about, like, are they into me? People ask me, like, why am I friends with them, you know? And it's like, I do see that this person has some flaws and stuff with certain things and their own insecurities, But I think that's what it is that they have their own insecurities, and I try to take it with a grain of salt, because ultimately, they check in, and we communicate pretty regularly, and they check in. But, they did have a streak early on where they were like super nosy and intrusive and invasive, and it stopped when they kind of got out of hand asking some really personal questions, and somebody pointed it out, like, dude, that's not okay to be like asking people that kind of stuff. Like, I wasn't really going to answer anyways, but it was like somebody else was uncomfortable, like, and that's not the first time that somebody has told this person to stop, like, kind of badgering and asking stuff that I'm not going to answer. So there's that. But I never really knew what to say, really. It's just, like, so tiring. It can be so tiring, just thinking about this kind of stuff all the time, because it's like, I don't know. I don't know. It can be hard to think about this kind of stuff all the time. Because we all do like somebody sometimes, like, it just naturally happens. But even if it's not a complete crush, and it's just like liking somebody like a friend or something, just, all these things that I'm saying still would apply, like treating people with dignity and the utmost respect, and like, yeah, you can joke with them and stuff, but make sure your jokes aren't at their expense, they're not jabs at them. Some people think they're being funny when they're just like offending people, and people laugh out of like embarrassment, or they're laughing out of like, haha, let me act like this doesn't hurt me kind of thing, but it's like they don't think it's funny. Those are two different kind of laughs, Like, if anybody's ever said something to you that, like, yeah, some people, they do really have thick skin, but say somebody comes to you and they're like, say, like, I have glasses, right? And somebody's like 4 eyes, or if you can't really dance and you're trying to like just be part of the party and just like get your own groove on and like just groove to the music and stuff and like dance and have a good time, and somebody's like, oh, you have 2 left feet or whatever, it's kind of like, shut the fuck up kind of thing. It's like that kind of thing isn't like funny. I mean, people are gonna laugh or pretend like they're laughing just because it's like, you don't want to get offended, and you don't want to ignore them because that applies that you're being offended. Or you can say some other smart comment back, which usually that's what I do, is I get really passive aggressive and just like say dumb shit to people. But I mean, and then they just walk away like, what? Like, I don't know. I can't even think of something right now, but it's like, you know, like if somebody says like, oh, you have 4 eyes because you have glasses, or like if they're just like 4 eyes or something like that, and maybe I would say something stupid like, oh, they help me peer into a person's soul. It's kind of like my way of saying like, you said something dark and evil, and I can see into your soul. It's like, what, they're just gonna like leave you alone, and then like if they keep on, then I'll just be like, I won't even tell them, and if they were like, oh, like, if you can see into my soul, what's in my soul, and I would probably say something like, I don't think you can handle it, like, I don't want to tell you, or something like that. And it's kind of like, I'm joking, but at the same time, it's like, somebody will kind of back off if you're doing that, and if they're not going to back off, then they just become a complete asshole. And I don't try to provoke people, but that's the kind of way that I get like weird and strange and passive aggressive about things. And I feel it's completely valid. I feel it's completely fine, especially when somebody else starts something, and I'm not saying anything hurtful, but it's like, it's kind of my own way of being like, back off, like, I'm not trying to hurt somebody's feelings, but I usually kind of can put it out there that I'm like, I see what you're doing, leave me alone kind of thing. And if they don't really get it, then it's like, okay, but whatever. So that's even another thing. But I would say I'm pretty much, uh, I'm pretty, like, I wouldn't call it confident, but, like, I'd say I'm pretty, okay with things when it's, like, okay, like, in the social setting, we're all kind of just trying to do our best, and we all slip up. Social settings, we all slip up. I do too. Everybody does. If you're drinking and smoking or doing all these things and at a party, it's a little more likely people are going to be a little loose with their words and not like, oh, let's be compassionate to one another kind of thing. Like, people are just all balls out, kind of like yelling and screaming and joking and like, saying dumb shit to each other. And it's fun. It can be fun, So I would say, like, it's fun to let loose sometimes, but really, paying attention to, like, the interactions between people. I mean, I started out talking about crushes and stuff, but I mean that it's all a part of social life. I don't know. This is lengthy. I know. I'm sorry, you guys. I don't know if anybody even likes to listen to these lengthy things, but I just gotta put this energy out somewhere, because even if it's just for myself, I don't know. Sometimes I just gotta get things out of my mind, so this is how I do it. I just hope it's helpful to somebody along the line, maybe. Alright, peace out.